one more from the top. Good morning, everybody. Thanks for joining me this Friday afternoon for, or actually it's Friday morning, for 5 hacking tips. Today we're going to cover personal security in general. Basically, I'm going to go through a list of about a dozen items that I recommend for people to lock down their personal security. I've titled the presentation "Personal Security Hardening." I think I titled the YouTube cast something like "Personal Security Lockdown" or something like that. But it is what it is. It's basically making it a little more difficult for an attacker to basically get into your accounts, get into areas that could lead to further information about your privacy, that could potentially cost you financially or in various ways, whether it's directly taking your money or whether it's a ransomware situation. And then there's other ways, people can take your credit card information and resell that. There's other indirect avenues of just getting your information. So the idea behind this is not to do like a complete, like a presidential lockdown or something like that, but to approach that or to provide the mindset of what it takes to get close to there. If you implemented all of these, you'd be very well locked down. And I'll go through these right now really quick. So basically, if you have a router or a Wi-Fi router and you think maybe you've been hacked, or what's the first thing to do? Besides turning everything off, the first thing that I would do before I brought everything up is replace the router. If you've had the router for more than, like say, 2 years or 2.5 years, and it's a consumer grade like a Buffalo or an Elecom router or whatever the flavor is in your part of the world. I live in Japan, so those are the two favorites. But anyways, and you haven't changed the default password that came with the factory, particularly, replace the router and change the default password. And at the very least, if you're sitting there right now, you don't think you're hacked, but you haven't changed the default factory password, I would recommend doing that right. And going on, the next one is, if you've got like a brokerage account, or you've got a heavy transactional, like even a corporate account, whether it's like a personal corporate account or whatever, that you do online transactions with, and if you're going to lose a lot of money out of that particular account, if somebody were to intercept that transaction, don't do it flippantly on an iPad or an iPhone that has to connect wireless. Use a wired connection, plug it into a PC or a Mac, and use a wired connection so that you know that at the very least in that transaction, in that network connection, which takes us to the next suggestion, is if you use a VPN and you've got a wired connection, you're actually a lot safer than somebody who's doing it just over wireless and may or may not have a VPN enabled. So that takes us on to the fourth item, is a lot of times what comes with these accounts and accounts that you have to do transactions like this with is we don't put strong enough passphrases in them, or the application doesn't provide for a very long or a complex password. First of all, if you're dealing with that right now, stop it, complain. I mean, for most of the major banks I know, the security is actually quite robust, and you can put in a very long password. Or a passphrase. And what I mean by that, a passphrase, I have my passphrases. You can do anything from like a 3 or 4 word, haikus are a good thing to start with, I think, and add to that, and add symbols, and replace letters with symbols, like A for the at mark, and I for the shebang mark, and that kind of thing. Which takes me to the next one, number 5, which is install KeePass. So KeyPass or another password manager that's going to generate automatically a very complex password that you set, where you set the parameters, and it's going to store them in an encrypted manner, and you're going to have that 24 character plus, longer is fine, passphrase. If you want to be really safe, put 50 on it. But to have that passphrase locking down that database, and I've always used KeyPass. It's multi-platform. There have been there have been some I guess a couple of versions ago there was something, but they were they updated it immediately. To me, it was no impact. Which takes us to number 6 is, this is very basic. It comes with PCs, and what I mean is antivirus. It comes with everybody's PC. But if you want to use like a consumer grade or just whatever came with your PC, think twice about that. Like, go shopping for that. Look for real-time threat protection features and that kind of thing. I use Bitdefender. I switched from McAfee. McAfee, is still very good, and they use real-time threat protection. I've just, as a malware developer, I've had a harder time getting things past Bitdefender, which is why I put it on my PC here. And of course, when I do malware dev, I do something else. But anyways, think about that and look at that, and look at the features in there also. Dive in, look at the settings, look at like what the history is, find out how to look at the history of your endpoint software if you're interested in your security and what's going on. Number 7 is basically it's more physical. It prevents man out of the hotel attack. It prevents a lot of things. A lot of times, like if you're trying to establish egress on a system that might be rather locked down, either because of endpoint protection or whatever, you may have to reboot. And if you come back and your PC's asking you for a BIOS password because it's rebooted, then that's even more protection. That's for you. That's a flag. It's like, hey, I didn't shut down my PC, or I didn't restart my PC and it's plugged in. What happened, right? Okay. And that kind of vigilance too. Add that, make that number 14 for today. Having that kind of vigilance, and yeah, why is my CPU fan racing so hard, and I have been booted up for an hour and a half, and I'm just trying to connect to wireless? Think about it. So, number 8, this is very basic. So a lot of times if you're using Windows 10 Pro or Windows 11 Pro, this is almost automatic. I think maybe Windows 11 enables BitLocker automatically. But whatever the case, is set up Windows BitLocker on your Windows hard drive if you're using Windows. If you're using Mac, you have that option, or OS X. If you have that option when you first set it up, do the hard drive encryption there too. Enable YubiKey. So YubiKey is basically, it's this little guy. It's just a little USB-C thing that registers. It has a key built into it. I don't know the details of the technology. I just know that without this, you can't log into my Windows. And you can buy them on Amazon or wherever, and they are very effective. You can also use them for other MFA things. So I think Google allows you to use YubiKey for some of their applications, or I think all of it, or to log into the administrative area too. You can set it up. Anyways, find out for yourself, because that's kind of out of the scope here, but that's it. Well, actually, no, it's not. The other thing is being interested in what the security features of applications are. That's very important. What we're doing here, though, if somebody wants to target you, they're going to get you. So the thing is here is we're just creating pretty much layered barriers. That we're creating barriers to make it harder. If they get to one level, they're going to think, well, do I want to pay that much. So that basically the effort cost gets so great that you're actually a lower priority target. Number 10, enable MFA where possible. This is without saying your web applications are telling you to enable multi-factor authentication is what that means, by the way. And a lot of people are just really fine with short mail, on their cell phone. That's actually the weakest form, particularly in the US. In Japan, we're a little safer because a lot of cell phones are locked to their SIM. But in the US, where that's quite loose, and people can actually spoof your short mail, will basically spoof your cell phone. I would say definitely use an MFA app, and maybe SMS as a secondary confirmation. Number 11 is I go back and forth. This is a thing that I have with, this is an ongoing argument amongst my friends, but I would say use webmail. Don't use Outlook, don't use Eudora, don't use Thunderbird or anything that'll take a macro or an extension. Just use the web interface, and make sure, of course, they're HTTPS by default. They're controlling what's delivered to you. I've used Gmail, actually professionally, and I've used the business suite now for a little over 10 years. And I've never really had, I've had a couple times where I've had some pretty obvious spear phishing hit my inbox. But very rare. And the whole time I've used they're very good. I've had to dig in and find things that weren't, they had come from a Proton mail or something like that. So they weren't trash, and I had found that it got filtered straight into the trash. So, things like that. But that's a filter thing, I think. So that's my recommendation. And the reason is I've just seen far more damage done with Outlook than I have seen with even with the O365 Outlook web interface. Outlook it just traumatized a lot of companies, and I've seen it happen. So it's just not my recommendation. Use webmail. And actually, if you look at the way that we communicate now, email should actually be something that's quite secondary or a little more official, because we're all on Slack. We're using different mediums of communication that are far more efficient and get a lot more done. A lot more synchronous. Anyways, number 12 here is don't put all your eggs in one basket. So I know there's Microsoft lovers out there, there's G Suite lovers out there. Everybody, has their preference. But the one thing about it is if you my preference is I use the Microsoft Office Suite because I have to, and I have a lot of clients when I have that use that. But I have clients that want to use the G Suite. I'm actually fine with that because that's my default. That's what I use. But I do use PowerPoint. I use Word. I use all those other documents, and I store them in a cloud drive on Google Drive, basically. So, that's just the way that I roll. Google's had some issues that have come up and everything, but I would say all quite minor, especially if you're in the business program. Number 13 is, if you really want to go this far, and this is another barrier thing, and it's basically a privacy thing, where you're actually, like I said, if somebody wants to get at you, they're going to get at you, they're going to find you. But it's another step where you basically remove yourself from social media and from a lot of open forums that are out there on the internet. There's a couple services out there. One's Delete Me, deleteme.com. Then I saw another one yesterday. It's PrivacyBee, and PrivacyBee.com. It's listed there. I'll put those in the video notes later on when I upload it. And I've also included, by the way, going back to enabling Windows BitLocker, I've included the Microsoft link in there, in case you haven't noticed. Thank you much. By the way, so about removing information from the internet. So about that, so what that is, that's very much a privacy focused thing. I've had people look at my Facebook business page and say, oh, here's a picture of your house. And it's like, well, yeah, what are you going to do, man? I mean, great. That's a privacy thing. That's not necessarily a security thing. But with really good privacy comes an added layer of security. And it drives, it makes it a bit harder during the enumeration process when somebody's trying to isolate a target and find out what they're about and who they know and people that they know. You know, by having a big Facebook presence, many people have experienced where somebody does almost an identical profile of them and then friends all of their friends and pulls them over and that kind of thing. Facebook actually catches that like right now. But I mean, or I've noticed they have, because I got a notice and it was an account that was only a couple weeks old. But, you know, if you want to prevent that, delete me is another way. Is a way of doing that. There's services out there. You can actually go to Facebook. You can download all of your pictures. You can delete your profile, and Facebook has that readily available because of other, I guess, legislation or litigation. But this service does it all the way across the board, and you know they'll research your name on the internet and look up where it's popping up, and then go and issue the takedown. That's all for today. I hope you got something out of this. Please subscribe. Thanks for all the support. Over 1,000 subscribers in, what are we talking about now? 3.5 months. A lot of likes, a lot of comments. This is not necessarily hacking, but it's from a hacker explaining how you're going to do a lockdown. Personally, and it's what I've also seen with a lot of startups do, and also like people that are involved in M&A. There's one other thing in here that I didn't include for those of you sticking around toward the end, is for, you know, a lot of people think that WhatsApp or Line or Kakao Talk or whatever is encrypted, and it is, and so it's safe and all that. Think twice about that. Look at something a little stronger, and look at what the journalists are doing and that kind of thing. And a lot of them are using an application like Signal, and then there's another one out there. It's not coming to me, but you know, go into Google and do a search Signal VS as in versus and see what else pops up there, because there are a lot better apps out there that are far more encrypted. So if you want to talk to somebody about something that's private, again, that's a privacy thing as well as a security thing. Think about changing your chat app that's on your phone or on your iPad. Okay, thank you for joining me today, and I hope you enjoyed this, and I hope you got something out of it. Have a good day. Take care.